With over 100 different items in the game shop and a constantly shifting meta, it can be really difficult at times to tell what the best items in Deadlock are. But today, I want to give you all my top 10 best items in January of 2026. Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Dead Unlocked, and I want to do videos like this a little bit more this year where I kind of talk about the game state, strategy, meta, those sorts of things. And I'm not a big fan of doing tier lists all the time. Sometimes, at least the way my monkey brain works, is I love a good list. So today we're going to talk about my top 10 favorite items that I believe to be the best value right now in the game. The hope is that I'll release one of these each month for both items and heroes to kind of replace the tier list content on the channel, give casual players or players that are in the game all the time just a little snapshot as to what items I believe to be best and what heroes I believe to be best in a future video. To do this, we're going to look at Deadlock Night Shift or whatever the esports landscape is at the time and see what pro players are doing. I've also looked at statlocker.gg and have kind of pulled up some item stats that we're going to take a look at as well. And also obviously inputting my own feedback and my own kind of experience with the game and these items into this list as well. But again, the goal just being that you can take a quick look at this and see what items are most viable currently in the game. There's an obvious caveat here that items are a bit hero dependent, comp dependent, game dependent, all that good stuff. But in general, I believe these 10 items to be pretty solid from top to bottom. So let's get right into it. All right, my number 10 top item in January 2026 in Deadlock is Superior Cooldown. So this one is was not featured on the top 10 list for top items in Deadlock Night Shift number 21. I don't think in number 20 either, but this is just an item that has such a consistent and positive use case, especially if you're a newer player and you're playing a hero that is going to be cycling abilities a lot. This is almost always a good buy. And if you're playing a support build, maybe like a Page or something, and you have a lot of actives, this obviously builds into Transcendent cooldown, which is going to be an item you're almost always going to take. So it just feels like in a game like Deadlock, we'll probably never get away from the fact that cooldowns are strong. And I know even like in a recent patch, it was probably a month or two ago, almost every cooldown item was nerfed in the game. And I still feel like this item is so good on such a wide variety of heroes that I felt like I had to mention it in this list. Again, this is one where meta is going to shift. Ability spam and spirit builds are going to come and go, but I still think almost no matter what, Superior Cooldown is going to be a good buy in Deadlock. All right, number 9, we're actually going to the Vitality tab, a 1600 cost green item. This is Healbane. So Healbane, some people may be surprised it's actually this low on this list, considering that in Deadlock Night Shift number 21, this was the second most bought item behind Cult of Sacrifice, which we're also going to see later on this list. Spoiler alert, but this is also probably the first item on this list and one of the main items we're talking about that's a counter pick item. So you don't typically buy Healbane as just like a stock buy for a lot of different heroes or builds. A lot of time this is to counter something very specific that's going on in the game that is troubling to your team, a boost of heal or whatnot. So for example, right now Victor is really strong in the meta. Healbane could be bought as an early to mid game counter against Victor. It's usually not going to be enough when you get into the late game, but still, Healbane is just a really good item because of how strong healing can be in this game. And obviously as we get more and more supports added, items like Healbane and things to deny the enemy are going to be really prevalent. So the 7 spirit power is nice, but again, 35% healing reduction on a 1600 cost item, and you get a heal on hero kill. This is just one of those items, we're going to talk about a few like this in the game, that just does a lot of different things for you. For example, even if you're not getting the most value out of the healing reduction, for example, you're still getting spirit power, you're still getting hero on kill, or healing on hero kill. And also you're counting towards your 1600 cost vitality, which is another really important thing that we're going to talk about in this video because of the significant importance of the 4.8k soul investment spikes. A lot of times you may be playing a hero like Mina, for example, who may not want to buy a lot of vitality items because she's not going to be as tanky. But heroes like this, and when you look at items like Healbane, if you can spend on a vitality item that helps your spirit, it really helps you to kind of keep an imbalanced kind of build while achieving the balance in the soul investment spikes. So Healbane, and a lot of the 1600 cost and 3200 cost items really help, as a means to that end. And so there's even more value in there. Again, I could have ranked Healbane probably a lot higher than I did here, but nonetheless, it is my number 9 overall item in Deadlock in January of 2026. All right, and sticking here with the idea of counter-picking and using your items to stop what the enemy team is doing in particular, we have Curse. So I mentioned Healbane being a way that you counter someone like a Victor carry in the early to mid game. Curse is kind of what you do late game for a hero like that, honestly. So this one was not in the top 10 for Deadlock Night Shift, nor did it have crazy stats on StatLocker. But that's also because it's a 6400 item. So, you know, when you're talking about something like Healbane, that's such an early to mid game option for so many players. Like I said, it achieves that 4.8k spike really easily for a lot of folks. So Curse is a late game item where there's just typically more deviation in terms of what items you buy in the 6400 category, just kind of naturally. But Curse is such a good item. I mean, it just has so much value right now, and it really does seem like, whether you're in matchmaking or in pro, this is one of, if not the best item to shut down an enemy carry, and can be, you know, really a linchpin for like a comeback mechanic for a team when they're struggling to get out of base or what have you. So Curse to me at any elo and really a lot of different situations, if you're going up against an enemy carry that is really unstoppable, this is almost a must-buy. Someone in your team really needs to have this. So for me, it was deserving of a top 10 spot, especially, you know, this is really here, especially because of the switch from Capacitor and what it used to do going on to Curse. And now we've put this really incredible ability on an item that you actually don't have to hit a skill shot on. You just kind of point it at someone and hit a button and they can't do anything. So that just feels really, really powerful. It's not just because of that it's on the list, but again, when we're looking at, you know, something like a Victor being really strong, a Curse just feels like it has to be an item on this list. All right, and for number 7, we're actually back to the Vitality tab and back to the 1600 portion of the Vitality tab, and we are talking about Enduring Speed. This has been an item that has been strong for a while. You know, movement was somewhat recently nerfed in Deadlocked, where it feels like you're a little bit slower getting around. And so an item like Enduring Speed really feels even more valuable now than it even did a month or two ago, and it was still good. So this on Deadlock Night Shift number 21 was the number 5 most bought item. And this is not a counter pick item at all, really. This is just an item that almost any hero in the game can get value from. So this is on the list for a similar reason that an item like Superior Cooldown is, for the same reasons, right? You can use it to hit your 4.8k spike really easily. If you're a hero, again, like Mina, who may not necessarily be looking at a Vitality investment as this core part of your build, it can still help you to stay balanced and get the benefit out of that 4.8k investment, while also just helping you to do something you would do anyway, which is getting around the map. So, like I said, very much in the same way that you buy Superior Cooldown, you buy an item like Enduring Speed. It's good for so many heroes on so many different builds, and this is an item that will probably just be a mainstay in this game for a long time. I mean, this is similar to like buying boots in a traditional MOBA, like League of Legends has boots, you know, to get around. This is very similar. I think the conversation here is really between an item like Enduring Speed or Sprint Boots and then extra stamina and stamina mastery. And I think there's honestly value to be had in both. I don't have stamina mastery on this list, but it was number 9 on the Deadlock Night Shift top 10 items from Deadlock Night Shift number 21. So there's tons of value in stamina, especially as an escape tool in the game right now. But for consistency and you're just getting value the entire game out of it, I just think Enduring Speed is a really difficult item to ignore and is my, again, number 7 pick for best items this month. All right, number 6, we're going to stay in the Vitality tab this time, but now we're actually going to go to the 3200 section. I promise we're going to get to weapon eventually, but this is actually Warpstone. This is an item that's very similar to Enduring Speed as to why I have it on this list, and Spirit Cooldown for that matter, that it just has a ton of functionality. You can do a lot of things in a game with Warpstone. It's not the most stat-packed item. It really doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, it's been kind of the same item for a long time in Deadlock, where every 16 seconds you can teleport 11 meters and you get 30% bullet resist, and this lasts for 6 seconds. So again, this item really does. I mean, if you're using this on cooldown, there's gonna be these kind of 10-second intervals where you don't have this buff, but otherwise you have a long time of having this bullet resist. And that's really why I think this item is on this list for me, is because I feel like a lot of times you look at Warpstone, you know, and on the face of it, you'd think this is a great disengagement tool, but because of the bullet resist, this is actually one of the best ways to get into fights, and also is a great way to get out. So again, it just does so much, and especially when you're talking about pros who have a really keen eye to you know, positioning and how to avoid or get out of certain interactions, an item like Warpstone can really throw that off and be this unpredictable way to move around. And that unpredictability is so beneficial and really honestly sets it apart, you know, to an item like Enduring Speed, which is so consistent, you know, the value it's bringing. This is going to provide you value in moments that stretch across the entire game that can really lead to some huge playmaking. So if you use Warpstone correctly, I think it could be a much better item on this list, a really, really top tier item. But again, it's not for every hero, it's not for every situation, it's not for every game. But all in all, to me, still, it deserves to be the number 6 spot on this list. All right, we finally made it to the weapon tab for number 5, and this one might be a little bit of a curveball, but hear me out. And that's going to be Glass Cannon. This one, again, is not going to show up on your top 10 items list for Deadlock Night Shift because of the kind of specificity of who's using this item. But what this item has become right now is this unbelievable enabler of really, really, really strong builds. I mean, you have these gun characters right now that can, as soon as you get Glass Cannon, really start to take over the lobby. And I mean, this item blows my mind. It is wild to me that we have an item in this game that increases weapon damage by 80%, and then you can also provide a stack, which you're probably going to be getting anyway, that helps your fire rate, which helps you to get, honestly, more out of that weapon damage. The max health is not near, enough of a nerf in my mind to when you buy this item. It's just so strong. So, again, because of what this has enabled, and this really even started, like, a while ago when we had Gun Holiday start to pop off, and it was like a Glass Cannon Lucky Shot combo that became really devastating. We're starting to see that come to life again with heroes like Viscous. And so this is just an item that, again, if you're playing a certain kind of hero and you're going for a gun carry build, Glass Cannon is almost always in that build, and it just feels really strong when you hit it. It's one of the most powerful items in the game. I think you could probably argue it is just the most raw, powerful item in the game. Best and most powerful, there's a little bit of a nuance difference there in my mind, at least. So I think best right now, because it can be used incorrectly. It can bleed defeating a little bit, I guess. But I have it at number 5. You could probably make a case for higher or lower, but this is one in particular I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, because, again, this item, it feels like it's not talked about enough. It's just this unbelievable item in the game's meta right now. So, like I said, Glass Cannon is my number 5 item in Deadlock in January of 2026. All right, now on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we go back to the Vitality tab, and we go to the 800 section, and that is because we're looking at Healing Right as the number 4 item. In Deadlock Night Shift number 21, this one was the 7th most bought item. It's actually down a few spots from the previous week, but this is an item that, when the lane's going poorly, this is pretty much a must-buy. And this is such an important item because of how important laning is in the game's meta currently. So it might take a real colossal shift for me to get Healing Right out of my top 10 items to buy, and maybe that's a flaw with the list, but this one just feels so strong. Pros buy it for a certain reason. It also, if you're playing support, it just builds into some really valuable stuff you're going to eventually buy anyway, so it's a good, sound investment. It's an 800 cost that you're not selling later in the game, basically. But yeah, this one, it doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward item. You heal, and yeah. But again, this one, whether you're having a terrible early game, whether you're just playing support, or whether you're just looking for ways to sustain through the early and the mid game, this one just provides so much value. Unless they do something drastic to it, I think this will always be bought at a really high clip. And again, this is one where there's a little bit of a fault in using Deadlock Night Shift buy stats as kind of a metric for this, because just this one, again, is just going to be so commonly bought as it's an 800 cost item. I think it's the only 800 cost that we have on the list, though, and I think that's because it kind of deserves to be so. So, yeah, Healing Right for me, number 4 on the list, and one that I think you could buy in just about every game and get some value out of. All right, before we get into our top 3, I want to do a quick honorable mention, and this one I just kind of feel like I had to shout out. It's an item that's having its moment again. It hasn't had its moment in a long time, and it jumped 100 spots up to number 10 in the Deadlock Night Shift item rankings, and that is Metal Skin. This is just a complete counterpick item to gun characters, but it's been bought a lot more over an item like Plated Armor recently, and I think it is just a much better item than that right now, because of its just pure immunity to incoming bullet damage. So this one has been cool to see. It'll be interesting to kind of track if this one sticks around or not. I think we could also blame Glass Cannon for a lot of the reason we're seeing this item more and more. So in any case, Metal Skin, not quite a top 10. I'm not sure if I would call it like my 11, but it's just an honorable mention that I wanted to talk about in this list. All right, my number 3 item in January of 2026 for Deadlock is Enchanter's Emblem. We are really on the Vitality tab in this list, kind of crazy right now, but this is one that I feel like has been an incredible item for a long time, and unless they change something really core about it, I think this one will be a really hardcore mainstay item. For a lot of the reasons we've already talked about in this video, I won't repeat myself too much, but 1600 cost, 3200 cost have a certain inherent value to them based on the 4.8k investment. This one really helps you to achieve a lot of what you're trying to do on your builds. Again, cooldown reductions have been nerfed heavily in the last, I think it was month or two, and so this is another way to try and kind of peel back that nerf and get your cooldowns on more often. This one, again, Spirit Resist is really strong here. The regen's fine. It's just a stat-packed item. In Deadlock Night Shift 21, this was the 4th most bought item, so pros are buying it as well. Tells me that there's something there. Again, this is one that it's really hard to get away from the value in it, and again, unless they really make a change, I think this is another item, kind of like Healing Right, that will be on this list for a very long time. All right, getting to the top 2, I feel like there's, honestly, if this was a tier list, a proper tier list, these would be the 2 items that I would call S tier right now in Deadlock. I feel like the value is insane that you get from them, and it feels like a lot of pros are buying them, and again, these just feel like really, really core items in the game right now. I have Kinetic Dash, though, at the number 2 spot, because it does so much. I've heard a lot of other Deadlock creators talking about this item recently, as well as the number 1 item we're going to get to. But this one just, again, it's too much to deny right now. This is the number 3 item in Deadlock Night Shift 21 in terms of buy rate. I think it was number 4 the week prior, so it's been in the pro meta for now at least over a month, 2 weeks to a month. And that's because it does so much. I think I heard, I think it was Deathy or someone pointing out that this one is one of the only ways in the game to get flat ammo. And that is so strong. All you have to do is dash jump to get it, and it can proc pretty frequently. So this one, again, the stamina is nice, the stamina recovery is nice, but then you pair it with fire rate and temp ammo, like it just, and again, you can get it from extra stamina, which is an item that you could easily buy in the early game to get value. There's just so much to love about this item, and so for me, it's a very easy choice for the number 2 slot. And I have a lot of the same things to say about our number 1 item this month, and that is Cult of Sacrifice. This one is unbelievable. This was the number 1 bought item by a large margin in the last Deadlock Night Shift, and it has been that way for a while. This one, again, for all the reasons we just talked about with Kinetic Dash, this is an incredible item, but this one even does, I think, even more. So this builds from monster rounds, which is a really solid 800 cost weapon item that a lot of people are going to be building in their games anyway. That item could have easily made this list as well. I just didn't want to be too redundant talking about these 2 items that much. But this one, again, it's a 3,200 cost, meaning that this and Kinetic Dash is all you need to hit your gun spike, your 4.8k gun spike. So this, it feels like what a lot of players are doing right now because these 2 items are so strong together, also lending itself even more to that kind of weapon meta. But this one, any opportunity you have in a game like Deadlock to generate souls out of thin air is valuable because souls matter so much to dictating which team is going to win this game. And so this is an item, I'll probably spend a video at length pretty soon talking about this item because I have a lot of thoughts on Cult Sac as just something in Deadlock in general. But in general, this one, like I said, is so good. Obviously you get some native stats, but really the big perk here is the active you get from consuming an NPC to get souls, and you get 150% bonus souls, and then you obviously get a buff that influences every aspect of the game: weapon damage, bonus health, and ability range. Coincidentally enough, all 3 of these things are things that benefit basically players playing flex builds where you're using 4.8k investments in each category. You get a bonus to each category, so it just has a lot of natural synergy with the meta of the game right now. It creates souls, it has a good precursor item, and it fits really nicely into the 4.8k investment. So this one just feels like, again, I think I heard Jake at the end of the last night shift saying that, this is bought in like 10 or 12 people in high elo lobbies are buying this, and I'm in, around Archon-ish, and I wish more players were buying this in my games because it's so good. So anyway, this is one that I think has to have nerfs eventually or a rework or something, but in any case, for right now, I absolutely view this as my number 1 item in Deadlock in January of 2026. I'd genuinely be really curious to hear what you all's feedback on this one is. Do you like the format? What do you think about the picks? Definitely let me know it all in the comments. This one I understand is a difficult subject to broach because you can't talk about items in a vacuum in Deadlock, really, because there's so many variables that impact one item by here versus there, and hero meta and game state. All these things are going to influence items. So this is a little bit of an attempt to synthesize all that and create something palatable. So whether you're a new player at a lower rank, I still think these 10 items could apply to you just the same as an Eternus 6 player in your lobbies. I mean, like I just talked about with Cult Sac, I mean, that's an item that is absolutely rampant in high elo lobbies right now. And I still think that's one you could get value out of in Initiate games as well. So, but as always, like I said, let me know what you all think about this one in the comments. I'd be curious to hear what items you think should be on this list that I missed. Would love to dialogue about this one a little bit more. Items are just this thing in Deadlock that I could probably just talk about all day. I think they're so fascinating. I love the art. I love what this does for this game. So I'll probably talk about items a lot more on this channel. But in any case, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, and from our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked.